All right, so we'll go through those as well. He does some interesting things and provides some nice tools. But I've actually, the last set that I got from him, I've actually been through the video training, which is an hour and a half long, 4 times now. Okay, it's complex to say the least, but some of the insights that he has are really terrific. Speaking of resources, Jeff just brought this one to me, and I put this on the website as well. Fine Art Grunge, Sebastian Michaels. Yeah, I don't know anything other than what Jeff told me, but it's pretty interesting stuff. And if you scroll through here, you'll see that a lot of his images are kind of similar to what I've been trying to accomplish. He's farther along, I'm sure. But it looks like it's got blending and cropping, and you know, this looks like something I would do. So anyhow, I haven't looked at it yet, but it looks like it's something really good. Okay. So let's look at I don't want to see that. Okay, who did? Okay, Tom. Paul, sorry. Tom, Paul. Okay. All right, my eyes are not that good on here. All right, so Paul brought these in, and let's see if we can just take a quick look at these. So we started with, not that one, this one, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, nice, blank sky. So yeah, I agree with you. I probably would have wanted to add something interesting up here. And so you got these clouds, right? Right. Okay. Just my comment here, I probably would have gone for some other clouds, because these are good, but you know, not distinct.
It's what I had from that series.
Right. Okay. Yep. Yep.
The tone was similar.
Right. The tone was similar, so you got at least. Yep. Okay. And then the tree. So as you can see from this, all right, he's pretty successful in getting the clouds on the backdrop. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And you had no problem really with the selection. Did you select, or did you just use blend if, or what did you do with this?
Use select.
So color select?
Yeah, and a separate mask.
Okay. Okay. Right, and that's probably the way I would have gone. Just use select the color, you'd get all the blue, which looked pretty consistent, right?
Not really.
No, yeah, I see. It's got some light and dark. Okay.
Yeah.
So use the plus to add the different gradients.
Honestly, right now, I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Well, one way or another, you selected all the blue out.
I just used the quick select.
Oh, okay, and just drew along the line. Okay. All right. Yep. There's always 2 or 3 ways. With Photoshop, there's probably 15 ways to do anything, right? So I don't know that there's a wrong way. And then this one here, the tree, and that's.
Unfortunately, all this was taken with this little snap camera mostly out of a window.
Oh, as you're driving by?
So,
okay.
not all of it.
All right. So my solution to those kind of things is I've got a lousy camera, bad conditions, and I was not stable right at the time I took it, is to destroy it, right? I mean, well, actually, let's just bring this up here, because it looks like you did a pretty good job. I can see, okay, so here's the composite that he produced. And just taking a look, I mean, it looks, you know, the sky in the background looks pretty good. That looks, it looks okay, but you can see that it doesn't quite fit, right? It's not blended in, and there's some problems here with voids. So if we turn off the background, right, it's pretty, okay. Yeah, so, right, so you got some places where you took out things that you didn't want to take out, right? Do we want to work on this one? You want to see what happens with this? All right, no guarantees. I don't know that I can do better, but we'll try. All right, so we'll just kind of drag this into Photoshop, he says. Yep. Yeah, it's coming. Okay, so the JPEG came into Photoshop into Camera Raw. We really don't want that. So let's put it into Lightroom. Just drag it into Lightroom and then import it. All right, so let's just do a little bit of pre-work in Lightroom, because it does help sometimes to kind of prep this. We can't really do the selections in here, but we can make sure that we've got a good histogram, all right? Make sure we've got the right grayscale. Now, when we looked at your image that you got, one of the things we had a problem with was these areas in here, right? The real light areas, because why? They match the background, right? So what I would want to do is to handle the highlights and the shadows and make sure that I've got good contrast, because the contrast is what's going to help. Let's see what the whites and blacks look like. All right, so I got a little bit more contrast there. And I can start to see some detail in here, which is really what we want to do. Let's bring the... So we've already got the highlights all the way down. So I've brought up as much of the highlights as possible. When I say brought up, I've brought out the detail in them by decreasing the highlight values. We can also use presence. Okay, we want to bring that probably, yeah, it doesn't really make much difference in that area. Vibrance, no, doesn't much do anything. Saturation, no. Okay, so that's pretty much what I want to do. I'll hit the E key, go back to edit, and now I can edit in Photoshop. And we'll make, for this one, remember we talked about copies. I don't want a copy of the original, I want a copy after I've made the Lightroom edits. So we'll do that. Okay. Probably the best way to get this is to do a color selection, because this is a pretty detailed, right? So we'll go up here and we'll hit select. Let's do this. Select by color range. All right. And we're going to use sampled colors. All right. Actually, we could use blues. And we see this in here. All right. That does a pretty good job. But let's try sampling the colors that we want. So I'm going to click on the blue. All right. And over here we can start to monitor this. Now, when I said the plus color, if we go over here to the little eyedropper tool, you can see a plus, minus, and without plus, minus. The without plus, minus is the preliminary, the first click. So if I said, no, that's not really the color that I wanted, and I just clicked on green, okay, I've replaced that blue selection with green selection. You can see the color that is picked over on the side here. So I'm going to go back to the blues, hit the plus key, and start selecting out different shades of blue. And you see my my mask over here is looking pretty good. Localized clusters allows me to be more specific. See, can you see the little black dots in there? All right, so that gets a little bit better. And then the fuzziness. Okay, how much of that blue? Should it be bluer or greener, or should it have a little bit more or less? So you can play with that and see. All right, so now you pull it up here and you can start to see that we're getting some transparency over in here. We're unselecting, or actually selecting part of the tree trunk, which is really not what I want. So I'm going to bring back to here until I get a nice black. And then let's try the range. Range is pretty good way up there because it starts to get some of the blue in the clouds down below. All right. Another way to look at this is with a background on it. I'm sorry, not there. Nope. All right, so we'll just hit OK. And now we've got a selection. So there's our marching ants. Looks pretty good. That's left out, and this is left out. But we can fix that probably easier because, fortunately, those areas are not in the complex leaves, right? So it looks like we did a pretty good job in the leaves. So let's go up here to Refine Edge. And now I've got my view mode set to an overlay, red overlay. What I really want to do here is I want to invert this selection, right? Is that right? I'm always confused here. So I selected the blue. So when I delete this, I'll want to delete the blue. So when I create the mask should be the blue, right? Is that right? I'm always confused here. All right, we'll see. We can always undo it. All right. Yeah, right. So let's put it on a black background. All right, so this is what's selected. All right, so we can refine this a little bit more by using the Refine Edge tool, this one right here. And we need to go to the brush tool and make that a little bit bigger. Now if I paint over these, you can see it's starting to get a little bit more detail in there. Can you see that? All right. And also, I don't know if, again, you see all the speckles? The black speckles there, they start to go away. So if we really want to make this look real, it's the edges of the leaves that are going to make a difference. Okay, so I'm losing a little bit in here because see how that's white? So I probably want to undo that with the minus key. So the minus key turns that plus to a minus. I'm sorry, the Alt key, rather. Because you don't want to go too far with these. Okay. All right, output to layer, new layer with a layer mask. And let's see what happens if I did it right. Nope.
It's the other way.
Yep, so we have to inverse. All right, so, okay. So I just stepped back there. Select, inverse. Okay, now I'll try it again. Refine edge. And with this, you can actually kind of see the edges around there. You see that? Well, let's see what happens when we start to repaint that. And as far as the background and how the overlay works, you just kind of have to mess with it and see which works. Because sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. With this one here, we've got blue. That's basically what's happening. So we'll output and we'll decontaminate the colors, which should pull out some of those edge pieces. All right, I think that's good enough. New layer with layer mask. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, now let's go in here and we'll do a selection, quick selection tool, and let's see if we can get this. That looks pretty good, except for right here. And let's see, Alt. Alt turns it to a minus. You see that? I'm going to just see if I can get that little piece of branch there. Nope, too much. It gets a little tricky.
There's a bunch of plugins just to do this, huh?
There are, yes. Let's see, On1 has a very good one. It gives you, it does exactly the same thing, but it gives you tools that are more intuitive. So you can say, okay, this is the color that I want to pick this color, and just paint over things, and they go away, which is spectacular. So let's see if we just delete those. There they're gone. Okay, there's another one. And I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. And we'll hit Control D to deselect. So now I think we have a better, a little bit better selection because we have detail here in these, right? So that's where we wanted to go. And one more thing in here. Since we now have this nice mask over here, a mask is a grayscale image. It's just an image that's being, laid over what you've got. If there are areas that you want to modify, remember I took out a piece of this and I took out a piece of that. So let's just go in here and kind of get in close. And now I'll go over here to the mask. And I'll use my paintbrush, and I'll turn it to, whoop, a little big. That's because we're zoomed in so much. Right now, if I paint in here, white, no, I've got to paint in white. So I'll shift that around. All right, so you can paint these back in. In places that you really didn't want to get rid of. And by reversing it, you can paint out places that you did want to get rid of. Okay? So that's just changing the brush between black and white. Okay, more of a demonstration than actual doing it. Okay, so now we've got this, and we have our picture over here. Let's see, we've got this one. Should be coming up. That's the background. It's this. Let's close this one here. Right, okay, so there's that. Let's turn this off and we'll replace it with this one here. So we'll just take this, we'll drag it up to there, and we'll drop it in over here. And free transform, We get a little edge problem here.
With the free transform, I know the Shift F RT, but where is it on the toolbar?
I think it's in, I believe it's in Edit. Yeah, free transform, Control T. Okay, so we've got this little edge over here. A couple things we can do with that. We can go back over here to the mask, and we can just kind of paint that in, change the opacity down here. I mean, that's a rough way to do it, but we got some other stuff over here too we can get rid of. So I'm just painting on the mask. I'm not painting on the image, I'm painting on the mask. So if we took this mask and we just disabled it, that's what we have. And we got enable. So right? Yeah, you know, a lot of these things is just a matter of how much time you want to spend on them. You know?
I spent way too much time trying to get the tree cut out.
Oh, you did a. Oh, that's right. You did a select, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think what I didn't realize the additive capabilities of the color.
Oh, color selection, right?
Yeah, color selection.
Yep. Yep. Tom.
You know, when you increase the contrast to make it easier to select that, can you go back when you're done and step that back some?
Sure, we can do that here. I'll go back over into the image itself rather than the mask. And now we can go down here and we can do a new layer, right? I mean a new adjustment layer. So if I want to kind of dim that down a little bit, we can do a bunch of different things. Brightness and contrast maybe. Now, I've added a new layer, and anything I do on this layer, watch this, if I change the brightness, okay, it applies to everything. So what I want is I want to lock it to this background copy. So I will click this little doohickey here, he says. That is what does it, but it ain't doing it. There it goes. Okay. So now that is locked to the layer immediately below it. So now if I change the brightness on this, it's just affecting the tree. Okay. Change the contrast down a little bit. Okay. You can also add a little blur to it maybe. Because really what we've got here is everything's in focus, which in a perfect world, you know, and what your eye thinks when you're seeing there, okay, is reality, but it isn't really reality. So you can do a little Gaussian blur and see how that works.
So you can make multiple layers to one layer.
Multiple adjustments to one layer, right, right. Actually, what I've done here is wrong. I've actually blurred the brightness, and I don't want to do that. I want to blur the, nope, I want to go up here to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we'll see how that works. Let's make it like 4 pixels. Okay, so you can see what that did over here. All right, it blurred out the tree. Probably a little bit more than I wanted, so let's try 2 pixels. All right, and here's the...
If you click on the tree, it'll show up in the box, correct? Right
And
now,
here,
it's showing
yes,
nothing 'cause of
right,
this.
right. Yep, yep, close-up view. So you have a little bit of ability to just blur it just a little bit. So that, I think that looks a little bit more realistic. So let's see, we'll save that out.
Yeah, if you want to go back to the base picture and again, play with contrast and some foreground darkening.
Just talk about a couple things. These two images here, obviously the same image. This is the original, and I just brought it into Topaz. Gosh, what's the one that does the painter's styles? It allows you to make a painterly image out of an image. Impression. Okay. So I used one of the preset filters for this, and then I modified it a little bit. So obviously over the top, obviously my style, but it allowed me to turn it into, you know, from a nice sunset to a Rocky Mountain sunset. So just an example of stuff. All right. What I want is collections. Okay. Okay, so we're going to make something like this one here. So I want to arrive at that. And so what I've got is I've got my tree, and this presents a lot of the same kind of problems we just worked with. I've got the cloud. I've got a turn-to-page emulation, and I've got a kind of a grunge-ish background. And this one here you can see is a photomorphous, and he's got some, you know, really great parts in there. So let's go back here and we'll just pick that, and that, edit in Photoshop. And I'm going to edit the originals on all these. Okay.
When you edit the originals in Photoshop,
right,
and it kicks back to Lightroom, it's going to be the changed file.
Correct. It overwrites. That's right. For my purposes here, that's what I want to do.
Only overwrites it in Lightroom catalog or in your main?
The actual image file. Right. So when now with these here, okay, with this one, I'm not going to change it, so I don't really care. This one here, I'm not going to change it either. This one I am going to change. So in best of all worlds, I probably would not change this. Okay, I would have made a copy of this one. Okay, and the other one here, the clouds, I'm not going to change that. I won't edit it directly. I will make edits to it in presentation. So this right here has got a couple of problems. First of all, let's turn it into a smart object, right? So a smart object means that I can go back and edit after the fact. But for my purposes here, what I really was trying to do is I want to edit it in Lightroom. Okay. I don't really want to take it back into Lightroom. I don't really want to go back to Lightroom to fix it. What I want to do is use the filter called Camera Raw, which is actually Lightroom, right? The Camera Raw in Photoshop is the Lightroom Develop module. They are one and the same. They're the same. So if you don't want to use Lightroom, but you want to be able to edit just like you would with Lightroom, and what? Okay, so this happened to me last time, and I remember what it was, actually. Sorry for the... oh, no, it's in Lightroom itself, actually. It's in the preferences. And what I don't want is performance. No, it's got the graphic processor turned off. It should have been turned. What happened before was that I had it turned on, which I do now, and it didn't like that. Let's see if it's better. Doesn't seem to be improving in performance, does it? No? Okay. All right, so imagine, if you will, I used to demonstrate stuff. And it was, I called the demonstrations were white finger demo, white knuckle demos, because you always hope that everything worked, and this is when I was trying to actually make a living with it. All right, I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe it's turned on here. Performance. Ah, there it is. Okay, so I've solved it in Lightroom, but let's see, filter, camera raw. Ah, ta-da. All right, so now we are actually in the Lightroom version oh, no. Okay, well, so much for that.
Why should your life be any easier than that?
I know, right.
This is it 5, it's not 6, that one makes any difference.
This is CC,
Oh, it's CC.
CC15, yep.
Well, this teaches us how to problem solve when we're at home when this happens.
What's that?
I said this teaches us how to problem solve when we're at home.
Yeah.
You throw it out the window.
Yeah, we'll just pitch it. Okay, so we're not going to do this. We'll just go in here and we'll edit this using these kind of things here. So I want to change let's just start with curves. Okay, so I want to increase this. There we go. Again, what I'm trying to do is to bring out the blacks, right? And increase the contrast. Okay, that's probably pretty good. Easy enough. And I'm going to use the same trick I used before. I'll use the color range, and we'll start picking colors here. Hit the plus, and just start looking at. Again, I want this as white as possible, and this as black as possible. Right? That's not doing much, is it? Yep, it is. Okay. So now let's go in here and there we go. Okay. I want to go into this. And I'm going to be smart this time. I'm going to select the thing that I actually want to select. Okay, the black part. Okay. Bring up my brush and
How far do you normally bring that up?
the
The one that's underneath that.
yeah, it's thinking pretty hard here. The radius?
Yes.
It depends. I mean, this one here, because it's got a lot of fine detail, I don't think we want a lot of radius. We can show the radius on this. Okay, you can see a whole bunch of stuff out there. If I take it up further, it starts to kind of bleed, right? So we can turn on Smart Radius. and just take it up just. And then let's go into the refine. Got my brush, and we'll just start to paint in here and see what we get. And again, the on one, maybe I think I've got on one on here. I might be able to bring that up so we can just see the difference between the tools. And one of the things I'm trying to concentrate on here is, okay, we have Photoshop. It's a very capable product. Don't really want to spend more money, right? So this isn't really doing what I want it to, right? Yep, fine detail. Right. Yep, that's not going to help. What's that?
We used to crash our server on a regular basis.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, this is heavy duty stuff. With all that detail in there, you're really putting Photoshop and, of course, your processor to a lot of work. Yep.
We're going to keep track of a file with 200 letters.
Right. Okay, that's not helping at all.
You need a big windmill, is what you need.
I do. Right.
How would Topaz remask work?
Remask? That would probably work. I mean, yeah, remask and the on one would work pretty well. All right, so let's try that. I think we've got. First of all, let's see if I have it in there. Topaz. No, I just have texture. All right, so we can't do that. Okay. So I'm going to flatten these so that I have a single image, and I'll just go back in and do a select again. Yeah. All right, that's pretty lousy. But fortunately, it's time for a break. So we'll come back. Adjustment layers are always related to the thing you're trying to adjust, right? So there are presets and there are preset packages, but I have never found a preset adjustment to put on. So this one right here, for instance, we just changed this. I'm going to stop this now because we're running out of memory, mine included. So, but no, I would just create a new adjustment layer, apply, in this case, brightness to it, and see what it looked like, and go from there. Okay, so as soon as I can kill this thing, what we're going to do is we're going to go into I want to show you the photomorphous, because it's pretty neat stuff. This I did a series last year of what I call botanicals. You know, the botanical style where you have like one image of one plant and it shows the flower and the stalk and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to kind of do my version of that. So let's see if we can kill this here. Maybe we can just kill the whole thing. And I did those. Boy, I don't know what's going on here. Something not good. Yeah. And I use this blend kit. So this is a kit that they sell that has a set of layers with different values in it. And that one, this one, this one, this are all from the same set of layers, just with different values applied to them, which is kind of interesting. Okay, there we go. All right. So I'll give you an example here if I can get to it. I don't know what I'm going on here. A lot of chrome stuff. All right, so let's just go to Lightroom. Okay, I'm going to kill it. Okay. All right, so this one right here, as you can see, is the TIFF. So he distributes his packages as TIFFs because as a PSD, we really don't want that to go into, we don't want to put it into Lightroom, and we really don't want to be able to edit it in Camera Raw. So if we have a TIFF, it's going to come in as just as a TIFF with layers. So we're going to edit, and I'm just going to edit the original here. Okay. All right, so here's what we looked at. And it's a nice kind of a, layered background. Here are the basic layers, and it's got some instructions here, so you can see that. If we look at the pieces that we've got an effects group here, which is just really the effects. It's actually, you can see what they do by turning them on and off, right? So this actually is, the kit that he sends comes with a single center image. I just basically copied it in order to make a second image, because I wanted two. There's the background. Here's an adjustment, a curves adjustment. There's Aquarius taster, I don't know what that is. And here's the base texture. So you can see this isn't really a whole lot of layers, but he's got some interesting pieces that you can put together. There's a script that I added, curves layer. So if we go over to Lightroom, for instance, and we grab a what do we got in here? Let's just take this one. And we'll crop this out so that we just got mostly the flower. I'm not sure what that thing is. All right, that's what I want. And we'll just move this over to Photoshop with Lightroom adjustments. All right. So I've got that down here. Let's just bring it up to the top. And it may not have to actually be on the top. I'm going to do a quick blend if, because my background is pretty white. Use the Alt key to split those values. So this is the cheater's way of doing a selection and a cutout. But your image has to be right. I mean, you have to have a fairly consistent light background. I shot this. I don't know if you saw the original here. There's a piece of cardboard behind it, right? So, yep, I cheated.
Scott,
Yes.
I was going to ask you, you used a white piece of cardboard.
Right.
Would there be any advantage to using a standard gray, you know, so that you could easily adjust the color?
What I've found is that it depends on the subject matter, right? There are some, if I'm shooting something that's white or gray, that obviously doesn't give me any contrast. So I've actually used orange in some cases. The standard in video production is green, right? You got the green screen? Because, you know, nobody's eyes are that green, and usually people don't wear that color of green. So it depends on the subject, right? Okay, so here's this, and I've got put it in transform, and you know, how much of this do I want in there? Well, I can drop it down to the base. That probably makes more sense. Apply that, and then we can start playing with the effects. How much of what do we want to show, and where do we want it to be? Here's the script, and for instance, I can move the script up a bit so that it shows through some of the layers. Again, depends, you know, all this stuff depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. Kind of like that better, I think. All right, this one here you can see is a smart object, a little symbol there. So if we double click on that, you see that we got some interesting textures. But let's just say that I want to change that, make it just a bit darker. More contrast. And I want to lock it to that. And then I can just close this, save it. No. And for some reason that didn't do it. Why do we think that is?
You have to refresh the file.
No, you shouldn't have to, actually. Yeah, for some reason it's not saving it in the same place. Okay. Okay, so here's one of those. I'm not having much luck today, am I? Right. Base texture. This one here, again, if you move it up, we can start to change change the color, change the arrangement. We go into this one here. Okay, so this one is the top light layer. And we see we've got effects in here. And they've all right. So we've got inner shadow. So that's where we got this kind of an edge fall off. You see that? And you can put an outer glow on it, which makes some difference. If you want more of a bevel. So there's some interesting things that you can do with this. You can change the direction of this edge. You can change the blend mode. So that kind of emphasizes the edges out here. So
Was that tool that you were just using part of the photomorphous, or was it for Photoshop? That layer
the effects?
Effects.
Yeah, that's a standard layer effects
In
Photoshop.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, what we're doing here is we're taking the basic pattern that was provided and applying different text effects to it. Again, yeah, here's our blend if function, so you can see that changing that, splitting it. There's some really interesting things you can do with these. You know. So. Now we did that, and we kind of messed up the dandelion there. So maybe we don't want to do that. All these things are, you know, based on what the effect is that you want. And we may not even want to use that layer at all. Something in here. Okay, we can see there's a little bit of edge fringing around here. See it around the... Now, you should be able to go down here to matting and defringe. Set your number of pixels, maybe 2. It did a little bit. Another 2. Yep, that's better. Can you see the difference? Okay. That's under matting, under layer matting.
These are the preloads, essentials, photography, painting, but then you can create your own work with the tools that you use.
This guy, 7 Styles, Australian guy, who is just an amazing, he's amazing at creating actions, and I've done a few of them. I've got a few that I've used. For instance, like this right here. So this is a Photoshop action that probably includes, I don't know, 200 steps.
Yeah.
And it produces 200 layers. It's just amazing stuff. So this right here, basically you bring up your picture, you edit just a little bit of it, and then you say, okay, go. And it runs this action that takes, I'm not going to run it on here because it really will take 15 minutes. On my desktop, which has a lot more power, it takes 5 or 6 minutes, but still, that's a lot. That's a lot of processing. So yeah, here's what he does. And so this is just one of his actions that he's got. They're $7 a piece, so it's not like he's asking an arm and a leg for them, but he's made a business out of this. All right, let's see if we have yet this installed. Almost. So we might get a minute or two. Oh, there we go. Yep. CC, finish. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, enough of that.